All right, finna go ahead and get started. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Life of a Champ podcast, episode number 113. For today's topic, a topic that I have visited in the past, it is definitely one of my most favorite topics to talk about because it is something that I've researched, it's something that I've internalized, completely internalized, and seen the utility in my own life, right? So, podcast topic is going to be masculinity, femininity, and society. So we're gonna get into every single one by itself, and then I want to also add in a few different things that I haven't exactly fully mentioned when it comes to these topics because I have made podcasts about these certain topics before, but I haven't like approached them in this certain type of angle, and I think that it's necessary when trying to give a full message on some of these things. So that is going to be what we're talking about for today. So a few things I want to mention before. Make sure you go ahead and follow me on TikTok, just Life of a Champ podcast on TikTok, as well as make sure you go ahead and leave a like on my YouTube Shorts as well. This thing's pissing me off, bro. I really need to fix this. Yeah, make sure you go ahead and like the YouTube Shorts as well. I'm trying to post more. I'm trying to make time to go ahead and edit some more because I know the people want those, and they've been doing very, very good. So tap in with that for sure. Other than that, yeah, man, steady working, man. Steady working as you're supposed to be, man. All right, so we're gonna get into it. So, where do I want to start, man? Where do I want to start? So yeah, let's take this angle. I want to kind of give you my views on masculinity, right? So I do believe that masculinity is in a very interesting position right now because I do believe that a lot of men my age they kind of feel, or at least this is what I think. Maybe I shouldn't say that. Let's just say a good amount of people my age are knowing damn well what society's doing and what society's trying to portray. And also, I do see masculinity, healthy masculinity, which is just masculinity, by the way. Take somewhat of an uprise right now, which is definitely very very good for a healthy society. So that is something that I definitely do see. I also do see in society does not have the best interest in mind for itself or whoever's constructing the ideas of society doesn't exactly, or maybe even does exactly know exactly what the outcome will be, right? So, masculinity is something that is looked down upon in today's society. If you are too excessively masculine, too hyper masculine is going to be looked down upon, right? And one thing I want to make very very clear, and this is something that I've heard and something that I've, like I said, I've took the time to really think about these things, and I do believe this for sure. So, hyper masculinity and toxic masculinity do not exist in the sense that in the same way that people see them, right? I do believe that people conflate this. I've seen this time and time again. They conflate toxic masculinity and masculinity. Masculinity in this essence is not toxic. So there should be no such thing as toxic masculinity, right? I do believe that it should just be masculinity and femininity because when we talk about women being terrible, we never say, "Hey, that's toxic femininity." We never say that. So therefore, I want to make that very very clear that that should be something that is removed. But we do keep accountable. We do hold people accountable over here. We hold both genders accountable or whatever and anything in between, right? Um the masculine and feminine, right? Sometimes they're going to act in ways in which aren't ideal for society, okay? And that isn't exactly toxic. That is just going to be in its own realm, which is just going to be poor behavior, right? Which is going to be uneducated, um, weak moral behavior. Let's just say that, for example, right? So, no such thing as toxic masculinity, no such thing as hyper masculinity. It is just going to be masculinity and femininity, right? And masculinity, femininity are going to have their own strengths and their own weaknesses, right? That's just going to be how it is, right? That's just how it is. So masculinity. Like I said, I do see very very interesting elements of society that are not exactly ideal for the masculine, right? They're not exactly wanting the masculine age, the masculine men to really go ahead and thrive as best they possibly could. Because if they did, the propaganda that they'd be spitting out and the things that they would be encouraging would be different than the way they are right now, right? And I do believe that even when a person comes into the world and is trying to portray this message, I do believe that for whatever reason they're labeled certain things, which I find absolutely fascinating. They're labeled certain things. They're looked down upon by certain communities, right? When in reality, if you look at the actual backbone, the actual structure, the framework of what society's built on, and like I said, I don't care if anybody that is of the feminine nature takes offense to this, but you need to look at this very, very logically, which is going to be, so masculinity is the framework. Like I said, it is the body, it is the backbone of society, right? If masculinity takes a turn for the worst, this whole society is going to be a downfall, right? And also, if femininity is also definitely very, very important. I feel like, by me saying masculinity is the backbone, I'm not saying that, femininity is anything less than that. Femininity is absolutely needed, and when you see femininity being removed from the society, also you see the weaknesses that society has, and the vulnerabilities that it has for sure, and the conflict of interest. Let's just say that when it is not exactly present or upholding the most healthiest manner that it possibly can, right? Same thing with toxic masculinity, or same thing with masculinity, right? Or same thing with poor behavior, right? Um, but yeah, going back to masculinity, I do believe, like I said, it is there's gonna be a new uprise, right? I do believe that people that are truly understanding and truly aware of society, right? They see it coming back reasonably. They recognize all the bullshit that society's putting out. They recognize all the strong male figures that are going to be heroes, truly leaders, true masculine leaders that people want to admire and people want to be like. And I do believe that's very, very important for society. And I do believe that also a lot of those people who are really looked up to, for whatever reason, they try to label them certain things, right? You can go ahead and assume whoever you would like to assume, but I do believe that most men who are good examples, they have a certain stigma behind them. They have a certain label. They have a certain a narrative behind them that isn't exactly in the best interest for that person, obviously, right? And one thing I want to mention very, very clearly, and this is something that I found very, very fascinating as well. This is just going to be my observation of society, and if you have any other observation, I want you to go ahead and leave in the comments, just because I don't see this as a common view, right? So I would say through superheroes, through professional athletes, through famous actors, through entertainers, through whatever, right? I do believe that men have more role models for what to be like, right, than women do, right? So you look at it, right, and I will also say healthy role models. More importantly, healthy masculine role models. Men have those. Those are easily accessible. They easily can be used for inspiration. They can easily be used for um, admirability, right? Because there is men who have done something with this life that has actually changed the way society is viewed, right? And like I said, men have no choice but to be inspired by those certain stories and things like that. Now, what I will say though, and like I said, if I'm wrong, let me know, but I don't see that same type of energy for the feminine. Unfortunately, I do not see that many strong feminine figures that exist that are super, super prominent when compared to the um, some of the best masculine figures, right? So you look at it and you're like, okay, who are the role models of the feminine nature, right? You try to look into it and you're just kind of like, well, that person's that's not a bad person. She's not terrible, but um her message is not that big. It's not the most feminine message. Or maybe it's not even feminine at all, right? I would say that most admirable women that for whatever reason women admire are very, very poor representations of what true femininity is. And that is very, very unfortunate, because then you see certain narratives that get spit out and also repeated by females when they don't exactly know the repercussions of their actions or repercussions of their words that they choose to say. So let's just think about this for a second, right? Who would be some of the best female figures? So I would when it comes to my mind in recent time, I would say maybe Michelle Obama, maybe Oprah, and then you'd have the cringe ones that you don't want to hear, right? Like the Kim Kardashian, you know, or any of the Kardashians or Jenners or whatever the hell. I'll put them all in the same category, right? or you think like something like the Cardi B's, the Meg the Stallions of society, and you try to look into it. You're kind of like, who is leading the culture of women right now? Who is truly leading? Maybe Beyonce, maybe Rihanna. Who like truly who is? And when you dissect it and you try to break it down for what it actually is, are those women exactly portraying the ideal feminine? And I would say hell no. I would say hell no. They're not. I feel like the way they go about their message is a very very masculine way. A lot of those women. I'm not saying Michelle Obama or Oprah. They're more of like, do young women nowadays in abundance truly get inspiration from those women? I would say no. It had to be somebody more culturally impactful in today's society. Um, and I just don't see them having too many positive female role models. And if they are, they're very, very far and few between, and they're not as recognizable or memorable as some of the more masculine figures. And like I said, I find that absolutely fascinating because I do believe that along with masculinity being this movement, unfortunately, the fact that it even has to be a movement is a very, very detrimental to society. But at the same time, it is also revitalizing. But there's no movement for women right now to be feminine. It's more of like, women, do whatever you want to do. Or, and I've said this time and time again on a few podcasts, right? With becoming the ideal masculine, right, you are automatically becoming what most women want, right? You're becoming a great leader. You're becoming somebody who's going to protect and provide for their family, right? Which I would say most women want, right? Protect, provide. What else? What else? What else? Be a person who's just a good person, right? Just a good person, right? Now, with that being said, I don't exactly believe that. Hold on. Let me respond, KJ. What is good, man? What's good, KJ? Appreciate for stopping by, man. If you are also in here, like I said, make sure to go ahead and leave a comment just so I can see who's in here. All right, let me get back to what I was saying. Going back to what I was saying. See, yeah, like I was saying, I would say there's not. This is very very sad, by the way. There's not very there's not very great representations of the feminine, right? And one thing I want to mention as well is when I looked at myself, when I like self-analyzed, I would say the best representations of women that exist in my life that I seen that actually impacted me are going to be the immediate people within my family, right? And I believe that's probably going to be relevant for some women, not all women, because not all women have that exact um, ideal feminine figure. Because quite frankly, a lot of the time, unfortunately, um, the woman usually has to take a more of a masculine role, whether this is single parent household or just women pursuing masculine endeavors, right? Whatever it is, it's not exactly portraying the feminine, right? Which I'll get into that. I'll get into how that affects people's perceptions, but yeah, like I said, women do not have they don't have those feminine figures that are like, holy shit, like I want to be like her for the woman she is, not for the masculine traits that she has, right? Um, yeah, and it's a damn shame, dude. It's a damn shame because go around your own life, right? Ask women, say, hey, who is somebody that you're admired, like who's somebody that you're inspired by? They either have never even thought that far, or they're not going to be able to come up with names, or they're going to give you men, or they're going to give you some masculine ass women, right? That's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. Um, that's the way that I see it, man. Like I said, if I'm wrong, I want y'all to let me know. If y'all see some figures in society that are portraying the ideal feminine, let me know. Let me know for damn sure. And I also want to mention as well is there's not young women doing this. There's not young women doing this. This if there's any as they should, by the way, but I will say the only ideal feminine figures that do exist are going to be older because they've experienced life for what it is. They've gone through certain phases of their life that the young women haven't. They have a different perspective than the younger women. I feel like and this, like I said, tell me if I'm wrong, but I see a lot of young women, they face this. I want to get back to this point. Men have always tried to become what society No, men have always tried to be what women want. Now, you would think in turn, women would try to be exactly what men want. Because that would make sense. Because that is the math should add up. Let's just say that. Let's just say that. Hopefully you understand what I'm trying to say. The math should add up. Men have always tried to be exactly what women want. So they strive for certain things like status, money, charisma, whatever. Like I can go on and on and on about exactly what attracts a woman, but ideally most men want to be that, right? Most men. Let's just say that. Now, if you look in turn, like I said, it should work the other way around as well. Women should try to be exactly what men want. But fuck no, that doesn't exist. That doesn't exist. That doesn't get mentioned by many people at all. And what I've always said, and this is what I will continue to say until I'm proven otherwise, women are not what men want, but what society tells them to be. Time and time again, I've said that because that is so prevalent to the way society is constructed right now. Tell me if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, let me know. If I'm right, let me know that I'm right because to be honest with you, that's just personally the way that I see it. That's the way that I see it. And what I mean by that is there's this propaganda that's being spewed out by society. Who the fuck is saying it? I don't know. I don't know who's starting some of this shit. But what I will say though, it's so deep and embedded within the way that the younger women operate that it's hard to find a woman, truly hard to find a woman who's in her feminine, who truly wants a man to lead, who truly is not super like how do I want to describe it? If this is the way that I would describe it, it's very very hard to find a woman who's not turned off by a man being a man, or at least expressing what a man should be for that woman, right? A lot of younger women are turned off by that, right? Why do I say that? Is because I have had experience myself, right? And maybe I didn't frame it in the best way possible, but what I will say though is when there's nothing said, when there's no real conversation about it, and if there's a masculine and feminine dynamic, it's going to work, right? But I've also tried to be masculine in a with a woman who's also masculine, and it just doesn't work, right? Um, which like I would say, if you had to tell me, if you had to ask me, hey champ, are there more masculine women or more feminine women that exist right now? I would say there are more masculine women for damn sure, right? If I were to find 10 women, if I were to grab ten younger women right now, right? Because younger women are socially relevant, right? As they always are. And say, hey, how many of these women are going to be masculine? I would say at least six. At least six. I would say that's pretty fair. At least six. Are you going to find one that's I feel like six, maybe you're gonna find about two or three that are going to be just neutral. So they're not overly masculine and they're not overly feminine. And you might find one that's feminine, right? But that's just the way that I see it. Like I said, if you see anything otherwise, let me know. But like I said, maybe one to two out of every 10 women are going to be feminine. And I would say maybe one of those women or half of the women are going to be not they're going to be underlying feminine. And this is something that I've seen time and time again as well, right? Where women do they hate this. Well, first they have this weak view of femininity, and with that being said, they also have feminine tendencies still, which a lot of women do, whether they're trying to have this very very masculine view or masculine approach of the world, they still have that feminine nature. But when you try to recognize that for what it is and try to appreciate that for what it is, they just kind of like, whoa whoa whoa, what are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? And they kind of get turned off by it. This is something that I've seen time and time again. But like I said, fellas, and like I said, tell me if I'm wrong, man. Just really tell me if I'm wrong. Men have always tried to be and will continue to be what women want. Most men, right? And women right now are not doing that same thing. Absolute huge flaw within society right now. They're just trying to be what society tells them to be. Now you must truly analyze and truly be an observer from now on, watching this, right? Truly be an observer of what society is telling women to be. Now, this is something I'm going to hope for in the future, and hopefully it's sooner rather than later. I wish for a lot of younger women, maybe starting now or starting maybe a few years ago, maybe they're not as big right now, but they're going to get bigger in the future. I do hope for more feminine figures and more feminine women to come out and truly embrace what it is to be feminine and truly accept the masculine for what it is, so the man can accept femininity for what it is, right? And you are almost viewed as a social outcast for appreciating masculinity and for being in your own feminine, right? And that is something that is so tragic to society, because it turns women off from wanting to be that, because they know that they potentially might get socially outcasted because there's so many masculine women. And you would think it would be the other way around. You think there would be so many feminine women that a woman who's masculine would be a social outcast and would even be looked down upon, as I wouldn't say as they should, but as they should, right? Um, Now, what I will say is this, and this is something I want to make very, very clear, because I'm not bashing masculine women, or no, I'm bashing masculine women. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm bashing them because they're just not healthy for the structure of society. What I will say though is this: should feminine women have masculine traits? Yes. They should have masculine traits within the workforce. If there's any place to have masculine traits, it's in the workforce, because if not, you're going to get used and abused, and you're not going to be able to fulfill the purpose that you want to fulfill in work as best as you possibly can. So what this means is being more business minded, right? So in that essence, it's going to be more disagreeable, right? Femininity is going to be more agreeable. So being that counter, being that opposite in the workforce when that is actually going to benefit you, that is going to be the place to do it, right? But what I will say is this: now, just because you are masculine in the workforce or have a masculine mindset when it comes to business or when it comes to entrepreneurship or when it comes to whatever, right? That is completely fine. But don't bring that shit home. Don't bring that shit to your partner, right? Because the men don't like that shit. They don't give a fuck about that. I'm gonna be honest with you, right? I'm trying to let people know this. Men just truly don't give a fuck, right? Some might, and a lot of those men that might, a lot of them they're just trying to, they're trying to get brownie points. Let's just say that they're just trying to get brownie points. They're just trying to say what you want to hear, just so they're more likable, right? That's me being honest, man. That's me being honest. I want to mention a few things real quick. I'm gonna mention a few new elements to the podcast. I don't know if you've already seen them, but they're gonna be right. Oh my bad, right here. So we got 808 and Heartbreaks by Kanye. Fantastic, fantastic. One of my favorite pieces of my vinyl record collection now. Shout out to Bree for getting me that. Much appreciated. Long overdue. I think I said it on the podcast that I needed that one. Now I had that one in graduation, so that's fantastic. But another element that I think is worthy of mentioning is going to be, hold up, man. Can I get out the way? Right here. Now, you can't read it because it's not going to be that clear, and it's probably not going to be that big on your screen. But what I will say, though, is that is the book that I'm going to recommend for everybody to go ahead and it's going to be the perfect book to recommend for this specific podcast, right? If you want to know more about what it takes to be masculine and also what the feminine is supposed to look like and how to navigate the issues that will inevitably come when it comes to dealing with the feminine, that is going to be the perfect book. It's called The Way of the Superior Man by David Dita. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, I think that's how you pronounce his name, rather. So The Way of the Superior Man, that is going to be an absolute staple when it comes to masculinity, right? Something that I have heard through the audiobook. I'm gonna go ahead and reread it, and I wanna be able to make my own video podcast specifically based off of that one book. So if you're looking forward to that, I want you to go ahead and let me know. But other than that, yeah, no, that is going to be those are the two things that I thought were worth mentioning because they're just new elements of the pod. So give me 1 second. Hold up. Chad, you have a very, very true point. What I've also noticed is that other men in this society are feminine and not masculine, and opposites attract. So you need to be masculine, man. Okay, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll mention that as well. That is very prevalent, man. KJ, appreciate for that point, man. So yeah, he made a good point, right? There are, sadly, and I say this, I'm not trying to be offensive to anybody, but I'm just being honest to the, like I said, what I evaluate to be what creates a healthy, strong structure for society, and that is going to be masculine men, right? So when it comes to feminine men, which there is a lot of feminine men, there's more feminine men than there was 30 years ago. There's more feminine men than I would say ever existed right now, right? You take that for what it is, but he's exactly right. And you cannot be. Most men want to be masculine. Let's just say that, right? Now, there's going to be there's going to be a larger percentage of men that want to be masculine that are truly just feminine, right? They haven't had the best upbringing that's going to suggest a healthy masculine mindset. Um, and they're not, yeah, like I said, they just didn't grow up in environments that were going to be best for them and their longevity of their life and their viewpoints of society. And with that being said, for those men that want to be masculine, if you're not that, you're going to automatically attract women that are going to be more masculine, right? That are going to literally bitch you around. And if you want to be bitched around, that's on you. But if you don't want to be bitched around, you must take the steps necessary in the form of trying to be more masculine yourself, right? Do whatever you got to do. And the first way to do that is obviously going to the gym, building the ideal masculine physique. There's not an ideal, but it's your own physique, building it the best you possibly can. That's what I would say. The ideal masculine physique, right? That is going to be the best way you can start, and then you can go ahead and go from there and learn about masculinity yourself. But that is going to be a very, very good foundation for what it's going to take. But yeah, he mentioned a good point. Like I said, the masculine men are gonna, or the feminine men are gonna attract masculine, right? So you better you better pick exactly what you want and you better play that role very, very well. And yeah, simple as that. Give me a second. As a man, we cannot be so vulnerable to women and instead take charge for what we stand for and also follow our purpose because women love a guy who has ambition and the drive to do things and not be lazy. Exactly right. Exactly right. KJ is exactly right. Yeah, and I want to make a podcast on that very, very soon. I do believe that women can definitely distract men when they're on their purpose, but if you're a man who's structured enough, you're going to avoid that in many different ways, and you must lay down some boundaries. I want to mention that in a future podcast. But other than that, I want to mention a few more things when it comes to the feminine, right? I think I've kind of covered most of what I wanted to mention today, but the feminine, right? If you've seen it, most women that are truly admirable, they're going to be feminine, right? So maybe this is your mother, maybe this is your grandmother, maybe this is your aunt, maybe this is, I don't know, this very, very beautiful woman that you see that has this very feminine essence that's very, very careful about the way she looks and things like that, right? So the feminine, man. Most men are gonna want feminine women. Simple as that. Simple as that. Um, so when it comes to the feminine, right? Sadly, I don't believe that women are educated on exactly what femininity is and truly how to embody that the best way they possibly can. So, just as I did, I'm going to recommend that to all women. Whether you're a decently feminine woman, how can you be better? How can you be better? How should you seek self-improvement when it comes to being more feminine? Now, if you're a masculine woman, I'm going to suggest the same thing, and I do believe that everybody should be doing this. Everybody should be doing their due diligence to understand the masculine and feminine dynamic. Why? Because I've spent so much time and I've seen so much benefit from this to study these things, right? I'm fascinated by these things, but obviously most people are not going to, see that same type of thing. But with that being said, if you're a woman watching this, I'm gonna recommend you to go ahead and try to figure out how to be the most feminine, great woman that you possibly can. And if you're a man watching this, you should already be doing what you need to do to go ahead and study what it takes to be a strong, healthy, masculine male, right? Both are needed within society, and both should never be neglected, no matter what is going on within society. So, with that being said, yeah, let's just, man, come on now, fellas, y'all need to tap in, man. Y'all need to tap in, man. Give me 1 second. I forgot that I could drink water, man. I forgot that I could drink water. Give me a second. So yeah, that is going to be the foundation for today's podcast. Like I said, this is one of my favorite topics to talk about, and I do believe that I must continue to spread this message because I know for damn sure it's not being spread enough. And if there's at least one thing you can take from this podcast, you're going to be in a much better position when it comes to moving forward with your life. Especially with this type of dynamic, the more knowledgeable you can be at an early age, the better you're going to be able to navigate your relationships and also just understanding yourself and understanding what's truly going to give you the most fulfillment in this life. And that's ultimately the foundation of this podcast. I'm trying to give you all the game. I'm trying to make you guys better, at least a little bit better, and I'm trying to help your life and help the ones around you. That's what I'm trying to do with this podcast. So hopefully you took something from this. Um, if you're rewatching this, I want you to go ahead and let me know something that you took away from this podcast so far. Um, but like I said, whether you're watching this live or rewatching it, I want you to leave a comment regardless, man. Support the podcast. Support the podcast. All right. Let me think. Let me think. What else do I want to mention when it comes to this? Man, man. I'm trying to think that's. I'm trying to think of something that's truly relevant to the topic that I haven't mentioned before. I had another thing planned. Yeah, I'll just tap back into femininity, right? One thing I want to mention with femininity is that it shouldn't be something that you hide, right? It shouldn't be something that you're resistant to, because if you're resistant to femininity, whether you're a man or a woman that is resistant to the idea of what femininity is, you might have a misconstrued perception of what it is, right? The way that I think society views femininity right now is going to be, and I've said this time and time again, that it has a very weak view, right? It has a very interesting stigma behind it, and this is going to be something that I've recognized time and time again. Any woman that says anything about being feminine on the internet, other women view her as catering her message to males instead of catering it to who the fuck would actually benefit from that. They're seen as a pick me type of girl who is just trying to get the validation from men, right? Now, women as a whole need to break down that belief. That belief is very hindering and very misleading, right? Oh, she has pick me energy. They'll say that some type of bullshit like that. No, she's just trying to fucking help you guys out, right? And you should look up to women who are trying to help other women become better women, right? Now, that's like saying, yeah, me talking about being masculine and trying to help people become more masculine is just catering for female validation. That's the stupidest shit I've ever heard in my whole life, right? With that being said, I see it time and time again. They're like, oh yeah, she's putting out a message for feminine women. Oh yeah, she's trying to get male validation. Now she will definitely get male validation. Let's not get that wrong. But hopefully her message is going to, and you'll be able to recognize this straight out the gate. If her message is actually catered towards men or if it's catered towards the women, right? Catered towards the masculine women. And I do believe and I hope that a woman is going to come along very soon that is going to take the world by storm when it comes to breaking these things down. And I do see some women doing this. Now, I need to see a lot of women doing this. This needs to be a mass movement, just as, like I said, masculinity is on the uprise right now in today's society. But yeah, I hope to see femininity on the rise very soon. I've seen a few creators come out and try to break down some of these things and try to go ahead and educate women exactly what men want. So I can point out a few of them. One's name is, I think her name is Shannon Michaela or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. I think I might have messed that up, but she's a very good TikTok creator who's very wholesome, very educating. Another one I would say is Just Pearly Things. It's going to be a podcast about um, bringing on women and bringing on men and women and trying to educate them based off of what men want and what women want and what society kind of has. Basically, similar topics to this podcast. So if you find interest in this, she's a woman that's trying to trying to wake women up um, to this healthy paradigm. Let's just say that. Um, yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's what I will say. Oh yeah, that is what I want to talk about. I want to talk about this. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up with this topic. Now, this is a topic that I didn't exactly come up with by myself. This is something that like I said, I'm a synthesizer, fellas. Y'all know this, man. Y'all know that I'm a synthesizer. As a person who consumes content, curates exactly the pieces that he thinks or she thinks that need to be mentioned to the mass society, and then reproduces content that is going to be strategic in that way by trying to educate people based off of what they found to be the most relevant to society. Now, this is going to be a concept that I've heard from Jordan Peterson time and time again. I'll mention his name on this podcast because he's a person that was one of the very few people that helped start my self development journey. And I will say there's a lot of things that I got from him, but I want to mention this one thing because I found it very, very fascinating. So, this is going to be if you grow up without a strong feminine, and I say strong loosely, I say strong loosely. A very let's just say this: if you grew up with a very, very strong and healthy feminine figure, and you grow up with a very, very strong and healthy masculine figure, you're going to be more whole. You're going to be able to see both sides. What Jordan Peterson recognized, and this is something that I recognize, and like I said, it's more relevant than ever, is there's typically something missing. There's typically something missing. And in my own life, there was something missing. And this is something that I had to, you know, relearn things. I had to shift my own paradigm about things. And I definitely could have seen, and I see this time and time again, where my entire life paradigm could have been completely like switched. There was two ways to go about it, right? There was the way that I am right now, which is me taking the time to learn about what the fuck I need to be and who I need to be and why I need to be this. And then there's this path of resentment, of this very vengeful, very spiteful mindset that I could have fallen into, but I didn't, thankfully. With that being said, if you're a person right now and you do not have, when I say who is a strong masculine figure in your life, if your first answer isn't your father, sadly, you're going to need to reinvent, or like I said, somebody super close to you within your immediate family that has impacted your life, and not somebody that is just an influencer, right? Which there's nothing wrong with you taking inspiration and you learning about masculinity through somebody else. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to know the most ideal circumstances, I'm letting you know the most ideal circumstances. When I say who is a strong masculine figure who's portraying healthy ways of being, and that isn't your father, then you need to seek something out, man or woman, right? Also, when it comes to the feminine, right? If I say, hey, who is a strong feminine figure that is portraying healthy mannerisms in your life, and if your first answer isn't your mother or somebody close to that, then you're going to have what most people have, which I think is a very, very flawed and very skewed way of perceiving things, right? And like I said, you must unlearn these things. So, so I'll give you one of the most common examples of how this can really affect society, and this is going to be probably one of the most relevant things when it comes to how it affects and how it portrays within society. This is going to be how a lot of people. Well, okay, let's just say this. Let's say this, right? If you don't have the feminine and masculine dynamic right, there's no way you're going to be able to build a strong family. But that does not mean you can't have kids. So there's a lot of people, it's too many people who you try to get in relationships. They don't exactly have the feminine and masculine dynamic down. They don't know about it enough. They haven't researched it enough. They don't go about their relationships in a healthy manner completely. But they still have children. So let's just say they try to get together, it doesn't work out. They still have a child or even children, right? Obviously, in most cases, the woman takes the children, right, and the man is, you know, hopefully doing his part. But some of the time he's not, right? Let's just say he's not. Now, you have a very, very skewed perception already because most of the programming that you're going to get for life is going to come from a woman. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that besides the fact that it has something missing, right? Which is going to be the masculine, right? Inevitably going to be missing. It's going to have that it's going to have that flaw in itself. Sadly, it's going to have that flaw where there's not going to be a masculine figure that is going to be able to show you certain things about life, certain paradigms to have about life that are absolutely needed, right? And this is what I seen for myself. Thankfully, I had some male role models in their own sense, but no one. And I'll say this, and I say this because this is the life of a champ, right? If you want to know more about my life, I respect my stepdad 100,000%, right? I appreciated everything he's done for me, and I will never look down upon that man ever because he did so much for me. But what I will say though is there's certain things he did teach me, and there's certain things that he did bring me up with that I'm very, very thankful for. But there are certain things that most men are going to need and embody when it comes to being a man. And I understand his point of view for not doing that because obviously he's not my dad, so he didn't want to overstep anything, which I respect. But sadly, I'm a person that needed to seek out what it takes to be a man, how to be more masculine, how to be the person that everyone else around you needs, right? That is going to be the ultimate man, right? I needed that for myself because I didn't exactly have a great perception of that um, through my own life, right? With that being said, some people and most people I would say are going to need to seek that out, and most people never seek that out, so therefore they have skewed perceptions about how they go about life, right? So, um, the path that I could have easily went down is men are shit. Men are absolutely terrible. They're terrible for society. I could have said all those things, right? Because I grew up with a woman. I grew up with obviously a very very fantastic woman in my mom, but obviously, in order to take care of children, you're going to need to adopt more masculine traits. Um, she was a person that this is I recognize time and time again. She was a person um, that, like I said, needed to adopt those masculine traits. And with that being said, she resonated with certain types of music and certain types of inputs that would suggest her being more masculine, right? Let's just say early 2000s, there's going to be a lot of music that comes out that says, I don't need a man, I'm independent, this and this and this. And that is the start of the downfall of society, right? When it comes to the femininity, right? Women taking this more independent stance, and not saying that they don't need a man when that's fucking bullshit. That's bullshit. That's just bullshit, right? So I could have easily adopted some of her paradigms, right? My sister also could have adopted some of her paradigms. It probably did adopt some of her paradigms when it comes to men are shit, men are trash, men, there's not very good men out there, right? Having these negative paradigms about society, right? I could have easily adopted that, but I didn't because I suck. Whoa, pause that. I went to seek out more information when it comes to being masculine myself. Like I said, it wasn't exactly 1,000% there the way that I needed it growing up. It just sadly wasn't. That's just not how it was. That's not the cards I was dealt with. I wasn't dealt with an ideal masculine figure that I could look up to, and want to exactly portray everything that he does, right? Sadly, that's just the way it is, right? I would say most men don't. Um, but also, like I said, I just see it as a flaw. Or let's just say you're a single father household, right? That's not going to have that nurturing, caring, love, right? So men that are men or women that grow up with that, they can lack that feminine essence in itself, right? They might seek it out in unhealthy ways, maybe through their partner. They're going to want something that's more. Let's just say for a man, for example, if you grow up with another man, right, a man raising you, and just a man raising you, right, you're going to seek out women being more maternal than you typically would, because you obviously didn't have that mother figure in your own life. So you might seek that out through your partner. You might be interested in certain tendencies for a woman being more maternal, right? Or if you're a woman, you might have this missing paradigm about what femininity actually looks like, because you never had that in your life. And regardless, if you're lacking one of these, it is your absolute responsibility to go ahead and learn what it takes to be either masculine or feminine, right? Because that is how you're going to be a very, very effective person within society. Whether you're a man or whether you're a woman, and whether you're learning about masculinity or whether you're learning about femininity, if you're not abiding by these natural laws of society, you're going to be lacking. You're going to be lacking. You're going to have lacking relationships. You're going to have lacking dynamics. And I'm just trying to educate you guys based off of that. Like I said, whether you're a man and you want to be feminine, you just have to take some of the advice that I'm giving to women, right? And if you're a woman that wants to be more masculine, you're just going to have to take the advice that I'm giving to men, because that's just the way it is, right? I'm not gonna break down what the hell that looks like for a feminine man. I'm not gonna break that down for what a masculine woman needs to look like. I'm not gonna break that shit down. Like I said, I gave you my takes for today, but what I will say is this: you must seek it out if you don't have a healthy ideal figure. You must have those both, and if you don't, then you're going to have this very how do I want to say it? Very negative perception. You're going to have a very negative perception on masculinity, or you're going to have a very negative perception on femininity, right? I see this time and time again. Like I said, my sister was the perfect example of this. She could have easily went down this path, but thankfully she didn't. She could have had this very, very spiteful mindset towards the men that she deals with, because my mom could have gave her the programming that men are bad because my dad wasn't who she needed to be, right? That's something that could have easily happened. Thankfully, like I said, it didn't, right? But that is something that I've seen time and time again within women that I've dealt with, women that I've talked to, women that I have observed in my day-to-day life, where I seen them and I could just tell that they didn't have that masculine figure, that true masculine role model that's going to show them exactly what type of men they need to look for. Most women don't know what the fuck to look for when it comes to a man. They know what they like, they know what they don't like, but they don't know what they need. I'm gonna say that one more time. Most women nowadays, they know what they like, they know what they don't like, but they don't know what they need. Man, I couldn't have said that any better, man. Um, yeah, and with that being said, it gets broken down. It gets broken down. You see certain women, and I would say younger women, getting they start having these attraction tendencies towards men that portray this ideal masculine, but in the reality, they're having a element of the dark triad, right? I'm not gonna break down what the dark triad is. You do know, you don't. But basically, these are going to be unhealthy, manipulative ways um, that are typically associated with the masculine. This can be associated with anybody, but um, they can develop these certain traits that are not going to be good for the long term, and then that's also going to affect the way that women see men for the rest of their life based off of that, right? But what I want to wrap up the point is like I said, man. If you don't seek out, if you don't have this, that's one thing. That's fine, right? I would say a lot of people don't, but you must seek these things out. Whether it's seeking to be, more masculine yourself or more feminine yourself, or if you see, you didn't grow up with the most ideal masculine figure, you must figure out exactly what that looks like. You must have a man that you can go ahead and say, man, that is a man admirable, that is truly admirable, and I would like my husband to be like that. So I'm going to look for certain traits within that man that I view to be an ideal masculine figure and say, hey, I'm going to compare every man to that ideal masculine. That is the way to do it. That is the way to do it. That's the way that I would say I've done it. But I've created this ideal feminine for my own life and said, "Hey, how does this woman stack up against what I would like, or what I view as the ideal feminine?" That's the way that I think you need to look at it right now. Sadly, I don't see enough people looking at it like that, man. That's gonna help you out when you within your life tremendously, more than I could even speak. Right? Even if you take 1 or 2 points from this podcast, you're gonna be in a much better position, man. Champ speaking facts, because some women have crazy, outrageous preferences that are unrealistic. It's okay to have preferences, but yeah, I would say you're getting into something that's different, and you're exactly right. But that's just yeah, for sure, for sure. Appreciate for contributing though, KJ, as usual. GDP always. Come on now, you know what time it is, man. All right, fellas, I'm gonna go ahead and end this one off. I appreciate everyone stopping by. This was the Life of a Champ podcast, episode number 113, talking about the masculine, feminine, and also the way that society is right now, and also how those things, play into it. What else I want to mention? So, yeah, I'll go ahead and end it with that. Tap in with the podcast that I'm going to be having on Thursday. Should be definitely an interesting one. And other than that, like I said, fellas, these next 2 months are going to be very, very pivotal when it comes to the podcast. New changes are coming, new things are going to be added, and I'm definitely excited, super excited for that. The content quality is going to get better, everything's going to get better, so look forward to that. Other than that, I'll leave you guys off with the podcast motto. Fellas out here, man, we don't just work around here, we outwork. So make sure y'all working these motherfuckers just like I am. Cause like I said, man, KJ said it best. Champ speaking facts, man. Simple as that, man. Other than that, y'all have a good night. Like I said, tap in on Thursday. And like I said, I work these motherfuckers. Simple as that, man. Y'all have a good night.